Hello, good morning.
Good morning, sir.
I'm sharing the slides. Yeah, in this lecture as well, we will continue our discussion on introducing the course content and discussing on few more applications of machine learning and image processing. I will also specifically discuss what we will indicate what we will be discussing in this course. What are the topics we will be discussing in this course? So before I move on, I would request you people to quickly tell one or two points or a couple of points on the discussion we had in the last class. Yeah, can a couple of students tell what we have discussed in the last class?
So we discussed like the steps taken we follow in processing, like doing a machine learning algorithm, like how do we do feature extraction, how do we do reprocessing and all.
Right. So if you want to automate any task and if you want to perform any either machine learning task or pattern recognition task or even a computer vision task to some extent. So any automated task usually requires 3 steps. Oh, so what are the 3 steps we have discussed?
Pre-processing, feature
Yeah.
extraction, classification.
Right. Pre-processing, feature extraction, and classification. And then what did we tell about them? When we discussed about pre-processing, feature extraction, classification, what was the main point that is mentioned?
For different data types, pre-processing and feature extraction is different, but classification is same for all data types.
Right, very good. So for all the data, most of the data types, like once you do pre-processing and feature extraction, classification is same. However, the way we need to do pre-processing is and the feature extraction depends upon the application, data type, and so on. Okay, fine. Okay, so we also have seen some couple of examples for pre-processing. Okay, and also feature extraction we will see now in this course and when we move on, and classification in more detail. Okay, so before I discuss some methods of feature extraction, so I suggest you people to tell what kind of features do we need to extract. Say now, since anyway we are discussing on image processing, okay, and our machine learning for image processing, let us focus on only on processing the images and extracting the features for computer vision task or image processing task, okay, or even learning task from images. So in such scenarios, what kind of features do you think are important? Yeah, I wish to hear a couple of answers.
Orientation.
Orientation, okay. So fine, in some applications, orientation is important. Okay. Any other, we are discussing about, see, pre-processing we have discussed. So now I am discussing more on feature extraction. What kind of features do we need? Orientation, some of you said, but orientation, where do you need? So give me an instance also. Give the application and the feature because they are tied.
If you want to find out the resultant direction of particular like a velocity or the motion, then you may need the vector oriented in that direction.
Okay, fine. So if you want to know in which direction a car is moving or a person is moving, okay, or any object, in which direction is it oriented? So you are interested in finding out the dominant orientation of the object. Okay, fine, good. Or the movement from frame to frame. Okay, good. So any other features? So quick answers are welcome.
So
Maybe
average
eight.
intensity.
Average intensity, okay, very good. Give the application as well. Where do you think average intensity is important?
Maybe to detect light or dark images, or maybe when classifying two different objects, the object itself might have some average intensity, lower average intensity compared to
Right.
another object.
No, so for example, if you want to classify red blood cells and white blood cells, average intensity, when you add stain, red blood cells look red and white blood cells look blue. Okay, so the average intensity itself is sufficient to separate them. Or say, for example, in this image now, if you want to separate the background and foreground, okay, background is now plain white, so you can easily average intensity, if you just see, or the intensity in a patch, okay, small patch, if you see, that can enable us to separate the foreground and background. Very good. Any other features that we look at? Average intensity across the whole region, or the region of interest, okay, or in a patch. Okay, any of these will serve as features. Good. Any other features? See, why I'm discussing these, as I have mentioned earlier as well, every time the application keep changing. Okay, even in a given application, the way we do, okay, the features we extract makes it more elegant, okay, are different. So unless you impart or get the thinking of what kind of features to extract, what kind of information to extract, and how to extract, okay, so that's all about is this image processing based works, and how to do it through learning is what is done in machine learning. Okay, so you should have that ability of thinking or orientation of thinking in that direction. Yeah. Any other examples?
Sir, edges and corners to detect shapes.
Right. So if I want to detect a particular shape, for example, if I want to find out where I have some coins in an image, okay, better give application as well as I said, okay, so that your thinking will reach easily and conveyed very well to all. Okay, if I have a plain image with some coins, I just want to count how many coins are there. Okay, I need edges there. Or if I have some say different kind of objects, there are some rectangular objects and then circular objects, I can differentiate by using shapes. Okay, or if I want to match a particular object from here to another place, okay, then corners are important, that we will see later. Yeah, good. Move on. Any other examples you want to tell, or shall we move on? Okay, so the other features that are important are, see, the edges etc will capture the shape, but to have a quantification or even better capturing of the shape, what is required is the angle of edges. See, if I tell that the angle of edge is round, okay, versus it is like this, okay, it makes a very big difference. Okay, so not just the location of edges, but the angle of edges or dominant angles of edges also makes a very good features. And these features we will see are invariant to intensity variations, invariant to little bit of deformations, shifts, and so on. Okay, we will see that later. Also, there are other features. We will see the even machine learning or a kind of statistical pattern recognition guides us to find out better features. A little bit of linear algebra and other things will guide us to find out better features, either in images or in data. Okay, the classification methods, usually conventionally used methods are, okay, neural networks, Bayesian classification and support vector machine, and now the deep learning. Okay, deep learning also has several other ways of doing. So now what we will do is, we will in the course, what we start with maths basics. As I said, in next week I will discuss mostly on the mathematical basics. So be very attend all the classes in the next week and be thorough in whatever I discuss. Okay, on the mathematics. Unless you are very clear and thorough on mathematics basics, okay, I don't think you will be able to appreciate and understand the discussions later. Okay, so I may be using it because it's a little packaged course where we want to learn reasonably good content, okay, in a single course. So I may be I'm explicitly doing few things, but I may not be explicitly doing as well. I may be giving as an assignments, or I may be just asking you to do. Okay, so at home. So you should be thorough with a little bit of mathematical basics. Okay, I will refresh on, you may be knowing some of them are in fact even 60% or 80% of them, or some of you may know, but still I will be refreshing them. Okay, and that should help you to subsequently do the understand the things better and do the problems etc better. Okay, so after that I will bring in some little few more concepts of machine learning and pattern recognition. Probably what I will do is I will start with the Bayesian classification, nearest neighbor classification and Bayesian classification, which are in some sense one is a simplest model, nearest neighbor classification. If we think of, it's an intuitive model or simplest model for classification. And Bayesian classification is a statistical model which will make us to understand what's happening. Okay, how is the classification process guided? Okay, if we have more data, what can we do better, and so on. Okay, so after that I will spend some time on a little bit of image processing and feature extraction in images, because this plays a very important role even now after these deep learning advancements, because deep learning is like a model. You can consider like FFT, those who know in electrical engineering, for fast Fourier transform. You can apply fast Fourier transform, but just applying fast Fourier transform enough is not good enough. Okay, so alone is not good enough. You may need to see how to interpret before and after, and you may also want to understand and modify it in the way that you want, or you apply in the way you want. So for that, domain knowledge like feature extraction and what kind of say techniques are used in image processing computer vision helps a lot. So I will discuss a little bit on that feature extraction aspects, and that also gives an intuition on data, how the computer looks at and what computer has to look at. Okay, how to impart what we look at to the computer, these aspects. And then we will discuss again, we will continue with the discussion on the machine learning aspects, like some dimensionality reduction or feature selection kind of techniques. We will apply now and then with some of the computer vision tasks or image processing tasks to demonstrate their abilities. And this is, you can consider this is roughly the first half of the first third of the discussion course. And the second third of the course mostly revolves around the neural networks. So because the all deep learning is centric with the neural networks concepts, I will start with the thorough understanding of what neural networks are, feed-forward neural networks. I will be discussing on the backpropagation, how they work and so on. So even if you want to develop a neural network from scratch, even convolution neural network from scratch, you should be able to do it. So that's what I envisage to discuss. So if things are like, if you are grasping fast and as well as the things move fast, I will discuss even deep backpropagation in deep neural networks and convolutional neural networks, which is almost not very clearly mentioned or there in even in other video lectures. So they may consider it as, some may consider it as intuitive, some may skip it. Okay, whatever is maybe the reason, the backpropagation in convolutional neural networks is not very well dealt in many of the other video lectures or in other books. So that I will discuss to some details. And then I plan to discuss on linear regression, unsupervised classification tasks, etc., which will make you understand the span of classical machine learning methods. I may not discuss much details on say some of the other methods, even support vector machines. So if time permits, I will discuss. Otherwise, I will just mention what it is and leave. Similarly, the other things I may not discuss at all. Few things like don't discuss is decision trees, okay, and probably Parsen windows for density estimation, etc. So some methods which are also part of machine learning I may not be discussing, because this mainly I would like to bring in a machine learning to deep learning concepts. So I go in that direction. So finally, I will discuss some of the applications of deep neural networks in computer vision. And this will enable you to understand the papers better and state of the art works. I will also try to touch upon the other deep learning models like GANs and recurrent neural networks. This is the overall content of the course, which I plan to discuss. So if you have any doubts here, please ask me now. Anyway, I will keep discussing one after the other, but if you have any doubts, you can ask me. Okay. If you then otherwise we will move on. So this I have discussed in the last class. So based on the programming assignments we give, I may increase this to 20%. Okay, that's only the change that I may do. For non-EE and CS students as well, I would alert that the programming aspect is important and it is easy for you to score. So don't think that the theory is easier. Okay, both are equally tougher or equally difficult. So what I would suggest is balance between the both and learn them. Okay, then overall we will see actually how we share that 5% and so on. But I think those who perform overall well in the course reasonably acquire marks as well. So now what I will do is I will quickly move upon some of the applications that we have already discussed and which are in place using the machine learning and image processing or machine learning for image processing in place. What is this application? Can one of you quickly tell? I think it's very visible, right? Yeah, I wish to hear.
Number plate.
Number plate.
Yeah, number plate, fine. More than number plate. This side is number plate. Okay. The right side is number plate. What is the left side?
Handwriting.
Yeah,
Digit
handwriting.
handwriting.
Digit recognition. So the first model that gives very high accuracy on this handwritten digit recognition is LeanNet 5. This is a deep learning model, convolutional neural network model. So previously support vector machine and the neural networks were found to be very elegant. So in fact, I think in 60s roughly the neural networks have models, basic models of neural networks have evolved. After 60s, say till 80s, there is a continuous evolution. And in 80s, almost there is a saturation or 80s to 90s. Saturation of neural networks model. And people felt that even by increasing the complexity of the model, you don't gain much in accuracy. And there are some limitations, like they work only for a trained data set and doesn't work on other data sets and so on. So, but after say into close to 2000s, the convolutional neural networks have been evolved and these models make neural networks much more powerful. The main difference between the conventional classical or classical machine learning models or the convolutional neural networks, that is deep learning models, is that they look the data as only one-dimensional vector. Conventional methods only try to get the features of, say, as I said, length, width, intensities, average intensities, and so on. They finally bring in any feature, okay, as a vector. When you bring in as a vector, what's happening in images especially? Images are all 2 dimensions, okay? But if you want to bring in the 2 dimensions content into 1 dimension, what is lost? What is lost? If you want to bring in a 2-dimensional thing, say I just want to recognize 4 as 4. Okay, digit 4.
Spatial.
Yeah, very good. Spatial information is lost. So when I lose the spatial information, see, spatial information is very important. I can't say that eyes will be somewhere and nose will be here. Okay, for a face. So in the similar manner, 4 is like spatially we have to look at. So spatial content is preserved in all convolutional neural networks. You need not do 2D to 1D transformation. So you can directly process it as a matrix or an array of like matrices. Okay, so that made this very, very elegant. And there are other like features that they have that we will discuss later. Okay, so usually what I would like to highlight here is that the way you present the data to the learning model also makes it very important. That means should I present it as a vector, okay, or it as a matrix, or even just as a raw matrix or in a different way of matrix? All these things matter. Okay, so it's not just like a I have very good say assume that I have a very high power transformer, okay, just given to my house. That is not good enough. Okay, I should have many electrical appliances to use it. In the similar manner, having just the model that is elegant model is not good enough. Okay, the way you present the data to the model is also important. Okay, yeah, this application, any of you know what is this? Quickly move on. I think I have good number of slides. Yeah,
Iris detection.
right. This is the iris detection. So there is an Afghan girl she was caught after, I think, 20 years, or I'm not very sure. I forgot about the exact story, but I think after several years, she was recognized as the same girl, okay, through iris recognition. Okay, and this is the application of what? This is the application of object detection. Okay, we can just identify what the object is and we can get the details of the object. So here in some of the phones. This is very well-known application, fingerprint and face recognitions. Okay, these are in place, but still there are challenges in each of the applications. Okay, I will discuss that later. Okay, in some of the works that are done by our students itself. Okay, what are all still the challenges that are left? There are many challenges that are still to be solved. So no system is foolproof.
The previous slides, it can be like a content-based retrieval also.
Yeah, you can consider it as content. Yeah, you can consider it as that as well. Yeah, it's trying to retrieve where it is and trying to describe it. Correct. Okay, so for example, face recognition. What is say for example, if I am able to recognize a face, say assume that we have developed a automated attendance system. Okay, some of you people put say a photo of your friend in the class. Okay, then what will happen? So it will still give attendance to your friend. So it's like that. So there, for each of these problems, there are associated sub problems or follow-up problems. Okay. So what is this application again? Face detection. Okay, and recognition as well. Okay, and these are done conventionally using many of the computer vision features before. I will tell some of them. So image processing and computer vision were widely used before, but now even the machine learning takes in fact, even a greater role. Deep learning takes a better role or a greater role in doing this much more accurately. What is this? Similar application done by a student. So this is the head detection. So rather than a face detection, we can see if we have a understanding of how to do a process, we can tailor make for several other applications around, okay, of similar sort. And this is the application where the student has stitched in a lab environment. That means, see, for example, panoramic view creation, right? In your phones, it may be there. So when you see a large field of view, you may not be able to capture the whole large field of view in a small video. Okay, so in such cases, what you do is in such cases, what you do is you take first snap. Okay, you take the second snap, take the third snap, and so on. What we do is in between the first snap and the second snap, there may be some common region. That region we will try to see and try to make the correspondence between the common region points. Okay, points in the common region, some salient points are the feature key points in the common region, and then stitch them. Okay, similarly stitch the next and so on. Okay, so that's how this is done, a panoramic view and then detecting the faces. Okay, so I think this is what is the video. I will quickly play. This is done by some BTech student in at IST almost 8 years back or so. So he is stitching. So he moved it in the lab and then he detected all the faces. Okay, you're not able to see
the video screen, sir.
Okay, okay.
No, sir.
So just a minute, I will try to share a window rather than a. Yeah, I am sharing the screen. Now you're able to see the screen, right?
Yes, sir.
Now video is seen.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Right. Okay. So he will be moving. There is a pan, tilt, and zoom camera. Okay, that camera, what it enables us is it can be programmed to pan. Okay, so to tilt. So this is tilt, this is pan, and then to zoom any region. So that camera he programmed, and they were sitting there, some students, and he made a panorama first, and then after that detected the faces. Okay, and the detected faces are here, and then he just recognized them as well, I think. So they are already in the database to recognize who is the person and so on. Okay, so that's the application. So like this, you can do many things. We do have pan, tilt, and zoom camera, and we do have attendances, like some experiments done from your earlier students on the automated attendance. Okay, here it is recognizing the faces. I think this is done by Akash and Saket, first year, say first batch students of computer science, on developing the automated attendance system. So you can see Sumant here, who is our TA. So what we have is in some of the classrooms, we have this PTZ cameras where they can continuously send it to the network and so on. Okay, so what the method these people developed is to automatically register. Say if you just make 4 students to sit, okay, they register their photos in like in different folders. So this can be used as a training data. So you need not specifically take one person of the other after other to register that, to say that this is Sumant or this is Saket and so on. Okay, so they made the initial registration process simplified, and then subsequently what it does is in the class, it is with the finally at that time the 3rd year students. Okay, you were I think super seniors probably. So they have made the folders, subfolders for each of the student. Okay, and then when the live class goes on, they can sit in anywhere, any way, and it tries to give us the detect the face, and then also give us the score of detection. That means, say if same face is recognized for 4 times, they consider that it is a short recognition. Okay, so if the scores are less than say 0.5, they may say that still that student attendance is doubtful. Okay, so like that. So they could achieve roughly 95% or above accuracy here, 95 to 98% accuracy. Subsequently, one of your senior, I think, Saswat has done on attention analysis in the class. So if the students are sitting, whether they are listening to the lecture or are they happy, unhappy, etc. So are they sleeping in the class and so on. So that gives us a feedback of how the class is going and so on. Okay, so this is another application. So here I think you might have seen in your phones that actually smile detection, okay, or some expression detection. Okay. For all of these applications, most of these applications now, previously they were not very heavy data driven. Okay, they used to use some data anyway as for learning or for extracting the features, understanding which features are better, okay, and then matching with the features and so on. But now, given the deep learning models, they can learn the features itself, and for the process of learning features, they need more and more data. So all these many of the computer vision experiments or the image processing experiments need very good data at the like to start, especially if you want to do through learning. If you have other methods which are get away from the learning and which you probably can take on a feature based assessments, okay, then you need not have larger data. But however, for most of the learning like learning methods, you need large data, and data sets are also available. Okay, so this is another application. This is in fact the first application in computer vision where they have demonstrated the ability of very good features of images known as histogram of orientation gradients or orientation of edges. So as I said before, orientation or the angle of edges play an important role in feature extraction. So that is what is being demonstrated in a large scale through this application. So this is human non-human detection. Okay, so these are the other kind of applications. which are, say, for example, the applications of image processing computer vision span over not just in some of the natural the conventional domains, but also in medical domain, and in fact, in many domains. So even as mechanical engineering and civil engineering students are also may know a little bit on their applications. So it's now spans over most of the almost all applications, all domains, wherein you can put the data in some form of images. You can use image processing or computer vision, okay, through machine learning or deep learning anyway. And wherever you can't put, even in finance or time series analysis kind of things, you can do it even with the data analysis followed by machine learning or deep learning. Okay, here this application is referred to as imaging flow cytometry, where I hope you are able to see the blood cells flowing in the middle microfluidic channel.
Yes, sir.
Okay, yeah. So this is a blood class, like blood cell classification application. So if you add this stain, they look like this, where you can very easily distinguish the white blood cells, red blood cells with parasite and so on. Okay. So I'm discussing all these applications because any of you can take mini projects in any of these areas. Okay. So those whoever have interest in some of the application, you can start pursuing in that direction. Okay. So here the challenge is to classify a if you have stain, the problems are, so to classify whether there is a parasite infected red blood cell or non-infected. If it is infected by parasite, it means that one is affected by malaria. Okay, so it will tell us the percentage of parasitemia or the percentage infection of the malaria. Okay, this is an important application. But however, there are several challenges. See, this spot now is very vivid, but in some cases it just looks like a dust spots. Oh, is it a dust really or a parasite spot? You can't tell. Okay, many such problems are still around. And similarly, within the white blood cells, how do we classify into different categories of white blood cells? That's a challenging problem, because unless you know, say, some class of white blood cells, for example, neutrophils, okay, basophils, eosinophils, etc. Okay, each of the cells have different functionality. So unless you know the blood count, exactly, complete blood count people say, unless you know each white blood cell, how many white blood cells are and so on, okay, you will not be able to tell what is the disease or what is the, is the condition healthy and so on. Okay, so this is a typical problem. The problem becomes much more challenging if we try to bring in imaging flow cytometry. The technique of imaging flow cytometry is, see, unlike the conventional microscopy, where we take reasonably good blood sample, so you take few mLs of blood sample and then put under the slide, okay, and then you examine through microscope and then see, add the stain in between and then examine through microscope and do all this analysis, whichever I have said. But whereas in imaging flow cytometry, you have only a microfluidic channel, okay, which is associated with a small pin and cartridge. This pin will just pierce the thumb or something, okay, through that small blood. Okay, it's very, even not a few fraction of ml of blood, okay, can go. And then that will go through a syringe pump, that will be drawn through a syringe pump on the other side. So what through it will move through a microfluidic channel. Microfluidic channel means very small channel, micro, as you know, very, very small channel. Through that it flows, and during the flow, there is a high frame rate camera here, which will grab the images of the cell. Each small sample of blood itself will have thousands and in fact, millions of red blood cells and thousands of white blood cells. Okay, so that you can capture. All the cells can be captured through high frame rate camera, and these look like this. The problem here is you can't add this stain like the way you add here. So detecting what kind of cells are these, okay, and then characterizing of similar nature, similar fashion as that of this is challenging. Okay, so you need very good image processing operations followed by machine learning or deep learning operations. Okay. If you have any doubts, please ask me. Otherwise, I will keep moving. Okay. This is yet another application. What is this application?
Segmentation.
Okay. task wise it is segmentation. But what is the application? Area. It is satellite image classification or satellite image segmentation. Okay, where you have, these are all the satellite images. Okay, you want to see where the roads are. Okay, from the satellite image, or where the buildings are. Now we have the satellite images all across the globe. In fact, over the whole India. We want to know how much region we have visitation, how much region we have the buildings, how much region roads are there. Okay, we can quantify them. Okay, and we can also see how much, we can make many assessments. Okay, economic growth of a region, or we can see the deforestation or change over time of the urbanization. Many things we can do. Okay, and then subsequently planning and other things also can be done. So this is another important and interesting area. So for all these, the required background now is roughly similar. Previously, the kind of features we extract are completely different from one application to another application. So conventional methods need some features. Here, if you want to know vegetation, different features are required, obviously. So I need to know green channel being more. So say there is something called NDVI. Okay, like vegetation index. Okay, and similarly GNDVI. So something like that, green vegetation index and so on. So, but now given this deep learning, so with little bit of pre-processing, you are still able to do, okay, even to a reasonable job. But however, if you want to master and do reasonably well, you should also know the kind of features, and you should also know a little bit of domain knowledge and so on. Okay, this is the same. Actually, this is rather than a few building classification or road classification, we want to classify or segment each region in the image. Okay, so you want to tell where the buildings are, where the where the green region is. Okay, where the trees are, and so on. Okay, and this is another application where the identification or detection of landslides. Okay, so from the hyperspectral images or multispectral images here. So usually in satellite image processing, because they don't have the ability to acquire with very high resolution images. The camera is very far, right? So what they do is they acquire across several bands. That means, say, green, red, green, and blue, you can consider as 3 bands. Okay, 3 different wavelengths of light, that is reflectance, that we measure. Similarly, they will go in even sub bands. Okay, they may go for hundreds of bands. Okay, and then record them as hyperspectral images. Okay, some such things are usually done. This is the hyperspectral image classification. Okay. Okay, so now the other, we'll move on to the other applications. So roughly these are all the applications that span over this. As I said, the conventional methods does feature extraction and classification separately. That means pre-processing and feature extraction are separate and classification is separate. That is why I said we will discuss more on the classification methods. Essentially, classification means given the features in it as data points. Okay, if I have 2 features, feature 1, feature 2, the data points of all class 1 will be put somewhere, all class 2 are some other place. This naturally happens because these 2 are of different classes. Okay, and in some cases you will be able to easily demarcate the region between these 2. The region that differentiate these 2 is referred to as decision boundary. Okay, so and the rule that will help us to separate these class 1 and class 2 samples is called decision rule. Okay, so I am introducing a little bit terminology. I will be using it later. Okay, I will be introducing and using also later. See, each of the point is called sample point. Why do we call each of these as sample point? Okay, each of these point as sample point. Say, for example, if we go back to our discussion of fish classification, we have 2 fishes. Okay, 2 kinds of fishes, Solomon and sea bass. Assume that we want to classify the fishes. I have, say, hundreds of fishes with me. Okay, and after I extracted length and width are 2 features of it, I have like this. Okay, so now what is this red dot indicates? Can one of you tell? What does this red dot indicate? What does this blue square indicate?
One of them is sea bass and one of them is salmon.
Okay, that is fine. But I have many salmon fishes and many sea bass fishes. Which one do you say?
Features are different.
Features are different. That is true. Where is that reflecting? What is this? What is this? I just want to know the distinction between these two now.
They are, if red is salmon, then both of them are salmon but different images.
Right, right. So both of them are salmon fishes, but this is in one image. This is another fish. Okay, this is one fish and this is another fish. So each fish is referred to as each data point or a sample point for me. Okay, each sample we will call. Okay, each sample of salmon are seen here. Okay, so each sample of sea bass are seen here. Okay, like that. So that's how you should interpret. Okay, the data. And since I have measured only 2 features, length and width, I am able to see like this. But if I measure more features, I may not be able to see like this. Okay. So in that case, we can't visualize, but we can still imagine that in that higher dimensional plane, there is a decision boundary, okay, which will separate class 1 and class 2 samples. And also there is a decision rule which will help us to separate. Okay, that's what is the main purpose of classification. Okay. But however, as I said, in the recent developments, the feature extraction, classification, these all can be done through the convolutional neural networks or deep neural networks in a single go through learning. So the importance of learning has increased now, given this advantage. Okay, so I will just pose a couple of problems that are still not very well addressed. Say if I give you, this is checkerboard and this strips and this is stripes. Oh, this is stripes and this is checkerboard kind of pattern. Okay, then see if I want you to classify this into 2 classes. Okay, these samples into 2 classes. This is also difficult. Oh, do you think we will be able to classify or not? I have the data where only this kind of images are there representing the strips, and this kind of data is only there, images are only there representing the checkerboard pattern. And then I will give you test sample as this and this. Do you think we will be able to classify correctly? Checkerboard as checkerboard and the strips as strips? Yes or no?
Yes, sir. If we make some change, if we can make some change in the rotation axis.
Yeah, right. So if you can train with all possible rotations in the training data set, then probably you may be. Or even if you make a orientation common for all the test data set, you can. Otherwise, you will not be able to do it. Okay. So even if you train with one orientation, it may not work for other orientation. So this is the same problem here. Say I want to detect faces, but now it is a detect oriented image. Somehow I have taken, okay, I'm not very professional or crazy. Okay, I have taken like this. Okay, so and I still want to detect the faces. So the accuracy drops heavily. Okay, but in that case also we need to see methods that will easily adapt to such situations, because these things are not very uncommon. Say for example, if a bike riding competition is going, or some gymnastics are going, okay, people may rotate. Okay, still we want to detect and track and so on. Same is the problem here. So here, what is the context is we are trying to detect each object and give the detection score anyway, the confidence in detection. Okay, so this works if the objects are straight. Okay, however, when we rotate it, again it may not work. Okay, so object detection also fails, and then recognition anyway fails. Okay, so this is another problem. This is done by our hello. You're able to listen, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes. And this is done by one of the your seniors. So we have a camera that is fixed in front of the temporary campus, at the temporary campus in front of the parking lot. So we can take the image of the whole parking lot. So there is a small like Raspberry Pi and camera, and it is connected to the computer and so on. Okay, so the objective or the problem here is to segment each of the different objects and put them into different categories. When we want to say segment or separate trees, road, okay, vans, vehicles, and vans and cars, all considering vehicles, and person. Okay, some such classes the things are reasonably working. However, when we want to separate into heavy vehicles, cars, and so on, when we increase the number of classes that we want to segment, the methods were failing. Okay, so in such cases, how do we tackle? Okay, so there are some problems like that, yeah, especially for Indian scenarios. If you want to apply the models which are already trained elsewhere, may or may not work. Or even in our scenario, actually, there may be problems which are even challenging. Say there may be occlusion when in a traffic. Okay, you can't see without blur, without occlusion, without noise, the objects or the images. Okay, so in such cases, how do we make the things work? To give a assessment. In some cases, very high accuracy is demanded. Okay, even if you miss one, I think it's very important. Okay, so how do we make things happen? So, for example, there was recently COVID and so on, right? So through either through chest X-ray images or to CT scans, through CT scans, we can detect at least, or we can identify to some extent whether there is a COVID or not for a person. Okay, so but in such cases, even a single COVID patient should not be left as non-COVID. Okay, because it will greatly affect the person as well as the community. So in such cases, even a like false negative, okay, even a single false negative will make a very strong impact. So how do we make things happen? Even in tracking, actually, in all the challenges, it's important, reasonably important. Now the state of the art are still far. Okay, they doesn't reach even, say, previously they are in 20% before this deep learning. Now they are close to, you can say, 50% in some of the tasks. Okay, but still there is a 50% gap. So that's the because when you see real data, they're quite challenging. Okay, so this is segmentation in a road scenario. This is also very important for, especially for autonomous driving applications and many other applications of interest. Okay, so this is giving the caption for an image. Okay, how do we give caption? So because this will help us to this comes under the scene understanding or image understanding. Okay, this is what is emphasized over time. And deep networks does reasonably well. What are these applications? Some of you can guess what's happening here. What do you think are these applications?
Prediction. Cyclone prediction and navigation.
What is that? Okay, tracking
Cyclone
of
prediction and navigation.
Right. Okay. So tracking of clouds. So there is these are cloud images. Okay, where we want to identify the motion of clouds from like one region to another region, one frame to another frame. Okay, from images. And also this helps in analysis of like the cyclones, hurricanes, and so on. Okay. So similarly here, tracking of clouds, where in which region overall they are moving. This is also important area actually. So we have a lot of data from like ISRO on these aspects. So, but the methods are still limited. Okay, to identify, to know actually what's happening over years, say 10 years, 20 years data we have. So this is another important field. Okay, this is another important field or applications of visual tracking. So you can see that we are trying to track here the red blood cells in imaging flow cytometry. Okay, here bacteria cells in imaging flow cytometry. Okay, this will help us to count the number of cells to identify which are the cells. Okay, properties of cells and so on. Okay, similarly here different challenges are there with scale. Okay, with occlusion. Okay, also with different other things. Here the context is the person is moving and the camera is adjusted to track the person. This is a like object follower. We want to program the camera to move with the person. Okay, so in each of these things there are several challenges, say background clutter. Okay, and then so on, many things, occlusion. So I will I will conclude with the applications in this class. So I will quickly move on to the one or two other applications and then conclude. I think this you can see from the YouTube. I will just leave it. Okay, so I think
material to go along with it. To perform this task well, the algorithm has to recognize the materials that are being hit in the actual understanding task of predicting what sounds it will make when you hit it. We give an algorithm a silent video of someone striking things with a drumstick. We ask it to produce a plausible soundtrack to go along with it.
okay.
To perform this task well, the algorithm has to recognize the materials that are being hit and the actions that are being performed, but we don't explicitly tell it about these things.
Okay, I will skip that. You can see there. So the experiments here is given this sound, we want to tell what the object is. Okay, just from the sound. So he has a trick with him. He programmed in such a way that if he hits like any object, so he will be able to classify the object just based on the sound that is recorded when they hit. Okay. So several applications of that sort, handwritten character recognition, or even now synthesis. You can synthesize the you can synthesize the handwriting of a person also. Okay, given first you understand how to recognize and so on. So I will quickly move on. So as discussed, the applications span over several fields, spanning from several signal processing and image processing applications to autonomous driving, okay, multimedia and human computer interface and remote sensing, okay, and several other say biomedical and finance. Okay, so I will stop here the discussion for today, and if you have any questions I would like to take up. Okay, from the next class onwards I will start with a little bit of mathematics. Okay, after the mathematics are done, okay, then I will move on to the discussion on the Bayesian classification.
Sir.
Yeah, please ask.
Yeah, yes, sir. Regarding the automatic attendance system you were talking about, you mentioned a problem that if a person flashes a photo of one of my friend, the system won't be able to detect it. Has this problem been solved, or is it still a continuing problem?
Yeah, it's partially solved. It's referred to as
liveliness of the photo.
It's no, it is face. Just a minute. So it's like what we should distinguish is the face is a 3D structure. Okay, whereas the photo is a 2D image. Okay, so if
actually,
you want
that was I was trying to suggest.
Yeah. So what people do is if we take multiple images from that, either we assess whether it is a 3D or not. Okay, that is one aspect. Second thing is the texture that is between the background and foreground will naturally be there if we have a real face. But the image may not have that commonness of the nice blending with the background texture. So such things are used and they partially solved. Still the problem is important because see, for example,
yeah, so there can be one simpler solution for this. So if we use two cameras or a stereo vision system, we can calculate the disparity between the two images of the same object and have that whether it has some depth or not.
Right.
And then if the image has no depth, if the image has no depth, then it can be termed as a photo. And the
who is speaking, I couldn't see, but I think Pranjal. Okay. Yeah, hi Pranjal. So the problem is this. See, all the time we can't bring in the stereo and other things. See, I want to design a authentication system, face authentication system. Okay. So I may want to be cost effective as well. Okay. So I want to put only one camera here on the top. So the question
we'll be using only one camera. We'll use a biprism system with that, and we can do this with one camera. This is being done by a lot of people actually.
Okay, so even if you use biprism and so on, see, you should get two images. There are, as I said, there are solutions existing. It's not they are not completely solved, not completely unsolved. Okay, so all the problems are around with partial solutions. And the problem why we study and we keep on still working in these fields is to make them foolproof. But so as I said, roughly currently only 50% say face recognition as such goes even up to 99%. Okay, but if you bring in these problems, they will drop drastically. See, even the deep state-of-the-art deep learning models, which will do very good face recognition, you can even understand how the models work and create an OS that will fool this deep learning models, and the accuracy drops by almost 50%. So 99% to straight away to 50% or even 20% and so on. Okay, so there are many problems around also exist. But anyway, if you have any artistic solution that will help in such scenarios, they're welcome. In fact, some of these students in our group itself are working on this. We have worked on this. I think you know, Pranjal may know these students.
Akash and Rajesh.
Yeah, Akash and Saket. And subsequently also there is a work on attention analysis and so on. As I said, still we have interest. See, for example, even our campus, our director and other people are keen, even Professor Natarajan and other people are keen. And if we can bring in some of the smart aspects of vision and other things, okay, image processing in the building of the campus. So if we have keen interest on any of these things, and if you would like to have a practical solutions and demand like testing and evaluation or demonstration, you are quite welcome to take it as a mini project itself. Okay, you can start some work with that. If it goes very well, you can continue a little bit and make it happen. Okay, we have enough even the other things like a little bit of funding. Okay, all these things also can be made available. So you are quite welcome to explore on these things and make bring in a little bit of artistic solutions. Yeah, any other question?
Sir?
Yeah.
Hello, sir. In the automated attendance system, in which video you have shown, in that API, we only fed 3 images before we trained the classifier.
Right, four images, correct.
Yeah.
No,
so we do data augmentation, or we are doing their one-shot learning?
No, it's not data augmentation. So what they do is they keep 4 students sitting there. Okay, those 4 students will be moving. Say it's a recorded video. Say if I 4 students will be say looking like this, and looking like this, and looking like this, all this. Okay, so it's a recorded video for a few few minutes. Okay, 2 minutes or so. In the 2 minutes, say 30 frames per second, you will get lots of frames. Okay, so and then you keep all of them, cluster them. Cluster them means group them. So first person will come into one folder, second person will come into another folder, and so on. 4 folders we will have. And that automatically happens as a data set for training. And like that, we repeat for all the whole class.
Okay.
Yeah. Any other questions? So is there any class where we can extend the time beyond our 1 hour? BTech second year student, third year, like fine, third year students can tell.
No, sir, we have a class now.
Fine, good. So that's good. Actually, we will see then one more slot I need. Okay, I request TS to work out. So in case anyway, we continue this with 3 slots only. But whenever I feel that we should have a little more discussion, it is better to have. Otherwise, what I will do is whenever I feel like more content has to be given, I will probably record a video lecture and send. So that you can listen to, and we will have a small discussion on it to follow. Okay, no, 3 slots we will take, and then any other extra things I may send as video lectures. Okay, fine then. So if you have any quick things, we will discuss. Any suggestions on the course and other things, you can quickly discuss. Otherwise, we will conclude now.
Excuse me, sir, Lakshya this side.
Yeah.
Is there any project currently running on the campus or somewhere where
many projects are running? So I will probably, some of them I have mentioned, say blood cell classification. Okay, and then automated attendance system attention analysis, object detection. Okay, and say vehicle segmentation or automated city scape data segmentation, 3D reconstruction. These are all the areas people are working, almost all vision areas. So